Hello, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chancleta Generation podcast. We are almost done with the year and we are almost done with the season 8. Kind of crazy. Been doing this for a while now, just me yapping away. And you guys listening to me yapping away, thank you so much for listening. I am Clemencia Herrera, the founder of Moyer Studio and your host. And what I do is I do advertising that specializes in communicating with Latinos in an authentic way, which is the only way to do it. And today's topic is very timely because now that the dust has settled from the elections, some of us are disappointed. Some of us are kind of like, meh, whatever. And some of us are just completely disengaged. Don't even want to look at the news. Don't want to look at anything. Just like la 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 la. So, and then some of us think that the results that we got are because our communities, are tired of things not changing for the better. And this is where our guest comes in. Today we have Rafael. Ray Collazo, do you prefer Rafael or Ray?
Whatever you prefer, Clemencia. It's an honor to be here on your podcast, and so whatever you prefer is fine.
Awesome. Well, I like Rafael, so I'm gonna go with that.
It's one of the angels, not bad, not a bad start.
Exactly. So Rafael Collazo leads the political arm of UnidosUS, the nation's largest Latino civil rights organization. Rafael mobilizes Latino leaders and organizations across the country to create more economic and social opportunities for Hispanics. By night, Rafael is a pioneer in the podcast space since 2013. Hey, another podcast. And currently, Rafael hosts and produces Bomba Live, a variety talk show that brings you analysis on news, politics, and culture con sabor, which is how we like it. Welcome.
Right. Clemencia, it's a real pleasure. Shout out to your staffer, Sienna, that connected us. Who actually grew up not too far from where I'm sitting right now in South Jersey. And I know we have a lot of mutual friends in the organizing space and in where you're currently based in Massachusetts. So just a real honor to be here and to talk to your community here online about a lot of important things to think about as we enter 2025.
Yes. And as you all know in this podcast, it's not just about complaining about the things that happen to us. It's about what we're gonna do about it. So, Ray, Rafael, what do you think? I mean, there's this sentiment here. And
How much time we got, Clemencia?
How much time you got?
You can earn a PhD answering that question, or at least a couple masters. Jesus.
I mean, I love hearing people's opinions and on what's happening, but I also, everybody's got an opinion, but there's also this thing that happens inside of us, right? Like this sentiment, it's not just like a personal sentiment. There's a collective sentiment among Latinos, and it goes beyond who you're voting for. There's this icky feeling about it. Like, what do you think?
Well, I think let's start with where you're at, which is kind of the Latino community, which is the majority of the voters, despite the closing sort of advantage that Democrats have had with Latinos over the last, it's just been shrinking slowly but steadily for the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. The majority of Latino voters are pretty horrified about the result, particularly on top of the ticket. And the fact that Republicans also control the Senate and the House means that this incoming administration is going to have pretty unfettered, and of course the Supreme Court's in his pocket. So is going to have pretty unfettered access from a legislative perspective on doing things. So we've got a real challenge there because despite, and we could talk dive deep into this, not only did the majority of Latinos not vote for Trump, but even a good portion of the Latino electorate, as best we can tell anecdotally and with the initial polling that's been done, didn't really vote for the whole pie. They may have been frustrated by inflation. They may be as a chunk of our community has been for 50 years, one issue pro-life voters, or had their own specific reasons to vote for Trump, or but most Latinos, when you poll them on the issues, did not really sign up for all of this. So it's going to be very interesting to see how either supporters of Trump, or which is actually the larger group, not just the Latinos that switched their support from Democrat to Trump in 2024, but actually the larger group, which was, probably over 1 million Latinos plus, that just would not vote for Trump for whatever reason, were not excited enough to come out to vote for Harris or anybody, and just didn't come out to vote. So it'll be interesting to see their reactions to what takes place over the next year or two. And to your point, Clemencia, but for the majority of us that voted against this, there's a lot we have to deal with emotionally. And then once we sort of once we move beyond kind of how we emotionally prepare ourselves in a healthy way for what's to come, to your point, what do we do about it? Politically, from an organizing perspective, from a personal perspective, because it's going to impact us on many levels, and we need to be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not only did we vote for it, we worked for it, right? You and me worked in that space of like civic engagement, getting people to vote for what matters to them. We worked towards that. So it's a double whammy of disappointment.
It's interesting, Clemencia, you say it's interesting, Clemencia, you say that, because I was actually surprised. Look, and just so and y'all can look it up, so I, as Clemencia mentioned, I'm the political director for UnidosUS. We used to be called National Council La Raza. We changed our name several years ago, but a lot of people still remember that name. And so, we're analogous to the NAACP, or the Union Urban League for the Hispanic Community National. I've been a political director a long time. I also run our C4 and our PAC. So I did all the political stuff. We did about $3.4 million, to your point, Clemencia, of outreach, ads, door knocking, texting, town halls, everything, live volunteer phone calls into Pennsylvania, celebrity appearances, rallies, all kind of stuff. We had Sonia Manzano from Sesame Street campaign with us one weekend in Philadelphia. Frank Negron campaigned with us one weekend in Philadelphia. We had a beautiful Philly Boricua Fest with labor and other allied partners the last weekend with thousands of people. We left it all on the field in that sense, right? And it was interesting because people reached out to me, not so much about the election, it was more on a personal level. They feel bad for me because, you worked so hard. And we feel so bad. I said, you know what? Don't feel bad for me. I think we should feel bad about what's to come for much more vulnerable people than I am. Yeah. But it speaks to the fact that people do pay attention and people appreciate the effort. And so I think that for those out there that worked on the campaign, frankly, whoever you supported, it might not have been a national race. You might have had you might have worked in a congressional. You might be a Republican that supported a Hispanic Republican somewhere in the country. If you worked on any of these campaigns, don't win or lose. We all accomplished something, and we all contributed something. And I think the beautiful thing that came out of my particular experience is that we really built a community and a network that wants to continue to work together around the country. So, it's disappointing, but when you've been in a game like I have, you win them and you lose them, and you realize that oftentimes to take a step forward, you have to take a step or two back sometimes. But that's part of history, and that's part of that's part of the movement. There was that we had to go. We went through slavery. Then we had this Reconstruction period that got a little better for Black people. There was 100 years of Jim Crow. And then we have the Civil Rights Movement. Now we're going to enter another phase. So from a historical perspective, this is what happens. And frankly, this is the reason why many of our folks either migrated from Puerto Rico or moved from their countries, because of the political upheaval. So this is part of our history. We have to understand that, one election doesn't define who we are.
And you made a really interesting point there. And this is something that, when after elections, we had a team meeting, and everybody was obviously very sad. But I felt the same thing, saying, yes, we went down fighting, but I don't think that the fight was in vain. Like, there was so, and I think this is exactly the point the point of our discussion. It's like, even if you think that nothing was done or we're not moving forward, there are little pockets in which we're moving through, and like, change is not this. I mean, from my experience, change is not this huge revolution. Usually when there's this huge revolution, things go back to the way they were, or something really catastrophic happens. It's usually like inching by inches. And sometimes it might feel frustrating, but sometimes it's like, hey, we may not see the full-on effect of our work in our lifetimes, but somebody's got to fight for it. Like, we can't just sit here and wait for somebody else to do it, or we can't just sit here and expect for things to change when we're not doing anything.
And politically, there's a lot of lessons in the results and what's just happened over the last. We didn't get here in a few weeks or even a 3-month campaign that Camel had, basically. We got here over really an 8-year cycle, an 10-year cycle, which is basically, on one end, Trump being a candidate for a decade, basically, at this point, and having all the media forces, from the beginning, when the mainstream media in 2015, 2016 sort of entertained him because he was good for ratings and sort of propped up his candidacy on some level that led to, his first victory. The control of, like Twitter, the right-wing media, Fox, social media, TikTok, Russia wanting this to happen. We're really dealing with some very big headwinds in terms of, the forces that are against us here. But at the same time, Latinos have been telling us for 4 years what they wanted. They said, we think we're with Democrats on issues, and that's consistent in all the polling. We regardless of where we're at from even in the more controversial issues, regardless of where we're at on a personal level around abortion issues, we believe 60-70% of us plus believe, even Catholics, evangelicals believe a woman should have their own right to make that decision from a policy perspective. Mm-hmm. The border issues, even Latinos that are upset about the large swells that came over the last few years, which, by the way, have decreased a lot over the last year, and Biden ain't getting credit for that. They don't want to see immigrants treated harshly or racially profiled, and they want the long-term undocumented to stay in this country and be able to get processed and get a legal pathway. So, and then on all the economic issues, they're with us. The saddest thing is when you saw people leave the booth and they would interview some random person. Hey, why did you vote for Trump? Well, because I want to buy a house, and I think, I'm a 23-year-old Hispanic, and I think he's better for the economy. And the tragedy of that moment is because Kamala built her whole campaign on helping someone like that. But the message didn't get there. They didn't buy it. And, there was lots of lessons learned. But remember, there's Latino voters that voted for Trump, and then also in Arizona voted for the first Latino senator from Arizona. Yeah. Ruben Gallego, who voted for Rosen in Nevada, who voted for Casey in Pennsylvania, who voted for Democrats in House races that flipped in places in California and other parts in New York. So Latinos are telling us that we're with them on the issues. I'm saying from more of a progressive Democratic perspective, but the party, the movement, and including Latino leaders like us have to really do a much better job of listening to our community, and to your point, being more proactive in investing on organizing with our folks 365, not just a few months before our presidential.
Yeah, but also the fact that you said, funny enough, there was this campaign and they didn't buy it, right? They didn't buy it. And it's like, why didn't they buy it? And I think it's like there's that sentiment of like, nothing has been done for me. Yep. You didn't do anything for me, so I'm just gonna go and vote for somebody else. They're gonna do something for me. But the thing is, like, in the other 4 years that Trump was president, really not much that was done for Latinos either. So it's like, what is the sentiment here of like, I want change, but I guess I don't want that change, but I'm okay with that change. I guess it's fine, you know, whatever. It's kind of like this. It's not like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. It's more like, yeah, sure, whatever. I guess.
Oh, you know, look, I mean, look, the part of the dynamic why so many people don't vote, particularly in the Latino community, they don't even register, even in a presidential. Because the biggest gap that we have in the Latino community is people that don't even register that are eligible. Yep. Once they're registered, they vote in pretty high numbers generally in major elections. Look, I mean, we want to get real deep about it. Most people don't think they have control of any of this and kind of feel like, you know, things are going to, and that's one of the things we have to be very diligent about communicating about what's going to happen, because even if there is a mass deportation of Latino immigrants and they're treated badly and they're put in concentration camps, and even if, you know, other things happen, you might be a Latino that isn't directly impacted or doesn't think they're being directly impacted by that.
Right.
So it's not going to, you know, so we have to educate those. We have to be very diligent by educating people that, A, it does affect you whether you think it is or not. Remember COVID, when you didn't think, oh, well, we survived COVID. Well, a lot of our brothers and sisters did not, right, because of the mismanagement of the Trump administration the first time. And on a human level, it doesn't matter if they're Hispanic or not. Anyone that's treated in this country in an inhumane way should impact all of us as human beings. You know, I often say, I get pushback. You know, there's people that, one of the things which I find very, very baffling, even well-intentioned people I love, care about, that try to equate Trump's movement with our Christian and Catholic faith, is that the irony of that whole conversation is that Jesus, his parents were Jose and Maria, and they were asylum seekers. And the whole story of the birth of Christmas, as we're coming up to this, was that the asylum seekers were rejected by the elites. And that's why he was born in a manger. And that's the whole story about him caring about, Jesus caring about the people that nobody else cared about. The apostles were like the street guys. Mary Magdalene was a sex worker. Single moms, poor people, working people. Dad was a carpenter. You know, his mom was a young mom. So what?
That's a great analogy.
That's the whole story.
Yeah.
So my pushback to them is, I do this because I was that little Catholic school kid that went to school. Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade, was an altar boy. My mom started, every time we moved to another neighborhood in Philadelphia, my mom started the Spanish mass there in another church. Mm-hmm. So I do this for that reason. Now we have disagreements, and I understand that. But we can't lose our moral center as a community. Because if we lose that, and if it's just, well, it didn't impact me, well, I'm a legal immigrant, so they're not going to deport me. They're just going to deport the guy down the hall. I kind of feel bad for it, but not really, because he's only been here 3 years, not been here 17.
Yeah.
Then that's when we've literally lost who we are as people. And I don't think we will. I think when people see what really is going to go down, they're going to wake up. But we're going to have to be there to hold their hand with it, because there's a lot of things that are going to happen outside of the very flashy things, the deportations and the things that are very visible, people will see. But a lot of things around, you know, cutting WIC 15%, cutting these other social programs on the margins.
Access to healthcare. Mm-hmm.
You know, well, you know, instead of having, you know, you have food stamps, so instead of having 21 meals a month, you have 17. By the way, you didn't have 30 or 90, you know, with the resource you had. So that's we have to be very diligent to let people know what's happening, and because they're going to get so much misinformation. Whatever happens, he's going to say everything's wonderful, and a lot of people will believe it.
Yeah.
But it's our job to tell them the truth, and they'll make the right decision.
But I also feel like people have, you know, you said that people don't even register to vote. It's like people have sort of just not like lost hope, because I just don't think that there was a lot of hope to begin with. It's just like, I'm just going to put my head down and I'm just going to work. And, you know, I'm not even gonna care about what's going on over there, because none of it is gonna change. And I think that there's a big difference between, like, you know, obviously, like, you know, there's a lot of people, I'm an immigrant, so, you know, we didn't come here in any kind of, you know, dire situation or anything like that. But I know there's a lot of immigrants that have come here with a lot of expectations and aspirations, and then their reality is completely different. And some people go back because they're like, I can't take it. This is too hard to do. But some people stay because they have to. And then, this reality just keeps like grinding down on them to the point that they're just like, I've been treated like crap, because of the way I look, because I have an accent, or even like generations later, I'm still being treated like crap. Nobody cares about me. So like, there's this disengagement here. And I think like there's a point in which like, again, we gotta take some agency too, right? Like, it's not just, and you said it, it's not gonna happen to me, it's just gonna happen to other people. And there's that, that sense of like, I'm just gonna care about myself and not do any, and not really care about the, the world at large, or like the community at large. And I think that we need to take some agency and say, no, I am going to do something, not just for me, but for the community. And that doesn't mean voting or whatever. There's a lot of other things that we could do to take some more agency, and not just putting your head down, or like putting your head in the ground and ignoring anything else is not the solution.
And Clemencia, you've hit on so many good points, because first of all, before we get into kind of the personal responsibility of taking that step, is that I want people to understand at a political level, things change all the time. 17 years ago, I would say a year and a half before Barack Obama became president, I think we polled most Americans, they say there's no way we're gonna have a black president. And then in 2008, we elected one. That black president was not for gay marriage, legally. Now, we've obviously come a long way from that, and Trump's administration may want to peel back some of those gains. My point, though, is that the Affordable Care Act, when I tell people, 16, again, before Barack Obama got in office, if you had a pre-existing condition like cancer, unless you had a very considerate boss or you were on Medicaid, you had no, you were going to get kicked off health care, and you're either going to go broke trying to stay alive, or you're going to die, or you're going to go broke as you died. Mm-hmm. That was it. Those were your options. So those things didn't happen. It took generations of activism for those things to happen, to expand more health care, to the gains we've made in the LGBT rights in our community. Those are just two examples.
Yeah.
And fast forward, now we also can go backwards. So I was sharing with some college students the other day that I had more rights as a college student than they do, because we had affirmative action when I was a kid. We had, even I'm a man, we had Roe versus Wade, so women, or the women in my life, had that right. They don't no longer have, in terms of nationally, and many other voting rights. We've gone backwards in a lot of ways, as a country and as a society. So, but to your bigger point, Clemencia, about the biggest thing, because I know a lot of people out there are very frustrated, very confused, kind of throwing up their hands in the air, scared. I mean, we got people, undocumented brothers and sisters, TPS recipients, whose rights are going to be expiring soon, who are very scared. And first of all, we have to do everything we can to protect them. But I think the biggest thing is, to your point, Clemencia, is everyone has to commit to do something and take a step. It's easy. And you might be watching and say, well, Clemencia and Ray, you're in this. You're like political people. What am I? I'm just a whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, to your point, but you have to take a step. You have to take a step to commit to do something. It could be in your church. It could be an after-school program. It could be making sure your cousin you don't get to see much, who seems to be having some issues, taking care of them. Just being understanding and sharing accurate avenues of information for people. So again, they can make up their own mind. They make up but they have accurate information. So it's very important that you take a step, because that step, you'll be surprised the impact it has. And it'll help you lead to the next step in your journey to make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of impotence, I think, in this, a lot of feelings of like, I can't do anything. I'm just a little me. But the thing is, like, you and me, there's just two of us. the actual Latino community, we're talking about millions of people. And so if one little me does this one thing, and then all those millions of people do the one thing, there's a lot of millions of one things done.
Clemencia, I know there's people watching this, and I can think of that whatever Latin American or whatever your background is, when there's a crisis, we come together. I think about the incredible philanthropy that took place, organic, in 2017 after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It's also impacted Dominican Republic and some other islands. And I remember talking to my family, because most of my mom's family is still on the island, and how their feedback to me was, we had no idea how much y'all cared about us. You know, we figured y'all are up there and so Americano, and they're not that proud. You know, they like it, but they were just overwhelmed by the support of the diaspora, because the federal, especially since the federal, even the local government response to some degree, faltaron. But it was well-intentioned people and allies that made the difference in that recovery. And then we saw the Ricky Denuncia movement on the island. There's so many movements when we have crisis that we come together. Look what happened. Again, people have amnesia. Look what happened when we had the kids in cages issue in the first Trump administration. Mm-hmm. People protesting and people raising hell, and the Muslim ban, people going to the airports. Remember, Clemente, people going to the airports who weren't Muslim. They just they're just human beings that thought this was a terrible thing happening. So our people power is the greatest asset we have. I'm fortunate. I think it's going to manifest itself in crisis mode again in a few months, but that doesn't take away from the fact of the power that we have working together, because there's nothing we can't do together.
That's right. That's right. But how is it that we can get that hope back? Because, to me, some of these results means that people have just they become completely disengaged, just saying, whatever, nothing's going to change, so who cares? Or they're just so confused about who's going to give them change that they're just whatever, I'm just going to vote for whatever, kind of thing. How could we give people that hope and that motivation to keep going in spite of all the, we've gone through all these hardships as Latinos, from, in all kinds of different ways, from white supremacy to societal pressures to, systemic barriers, there's so many things that we've gone through, and it's should we keep trudging through?
It's interesting. I think this may be the most important part of the conversation, Clemencia, because it's been interesting to see and I just haven't had the to be very honest with you, right after the election, what typically happens to me, I get sick, and my body just has to recover. But
I think that happens to all of us.
Yeah, a lot of us. That the biggest the conversation happening in the Democratic, progressive, liberal eco spaces. What do we do? And a lot of it's focused on the tactical part. Well, we have to be on podcasts. We have to stuff like this. We have to maybe talk to a Latino man once in a while to see what they, there's always we have to work. We have to have a 50-state strategy, and there's all this tactical stuff, and there's all these tactical messaging conversations. When I think that's really missing the bigger point is that it's not about tactics. It's about leadership. What people want to see, what Latinos want to see, what people want to see is people fighting for them.
Yeah.
I'll give you a political example and a very personal example related to podcasting. Former Congressman Luis Gutierrez, who was a legendary political figure, was a member of Congress many years, was really the political face of the immigrant rights movement for 30 years. He's recently retired. He tells me that people still stop him in supermarkets and in public, Latino immigrants, and say, we don't see people on TV fighting for us like you did. Mm. And so now, does that person who made that statement agree with Luis on every political issue? Probably not. Is that person super political? No. But you know what? On some level, Luis's leadership provided that person comfort and a little bit of hope. And so I don't think we have to worry a lot about the planning,
right?
As much as, why don't we show people leadership? Because look, at the end of the day, leadership's easy when it's easy. Like what in the Obama years, I would purposely not go. They would invite people to like White House events and stuff like that, and I purposely wouldn't go. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want to get too cozy with them because you have to advocate. We have to still be advocates. And that was my little tiny silly resistance thing. But my point is that it's kind of easy when it's easy. When you have access now with Biden, we have we go back and forth. We have access. We have people to talk to. The doors are open. There's Latinos there that lead. Now what's going to happen when we don't have any of that? So what do we do and show our community? We're still going to fight for them when it's not easy. From a cultural perspective, boxing is so big with us, with Latinos. And I haven't done a lot of videos, but the video I did on social media was, look, on a personal level and on a political level, we just got knocked out. But you know what? The true greatness of a fighter is what do you do when that happens? It's not when it's easy. So I think we have to focus more on leading, and people will follow, people will notice, and people will be inspired. With the podcasting, it's been such a spiritual journey for me because I wanted to do it so bad full time, be on TV, and I have all these dreams and things. And it's and I think I have something to share in terms of analysis. But the biggest thing that the feedback people give me is they're inspired by the fact that I even try. Wow, you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You're on, wow. And I think the implication is kind of like, they don't say it, but part of it's like, you're not really young. You're not like a really handsome person. You're not like an IG star out here. You're like a regular person. And just being honest. That's kind of but you know what? But that means something to them because they're feeling like, wow, I don't have a way to get out there. I don't have a voice.
Yeah.
If he felt like he could put himself out there to be vulnerable, to give opinions, to be controversial, and just be real, just be me, dorky Ralph, Ray, whatever, it has a little something to say, then that inspires people more than the content itself.
Yeah.
So I think just being present for our people, we have to take care of ourselves, family. I know that's the balance a lot of our activists are going through right now. Being present for our people and telling you we're not going to quit and it's not going to be fixed tomorrow and it'll get worse before it gets better if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're here for the fight.
And I think leadership also has to do with like knowing what the challenges are. And it's like, I'm thinking about like some of the biggest companies in the world, they started resolving a challenge that society had, and now they're bazillionaires. Right. And so it's like, that is obviously that's like a capitalist leadership, but that is sort of like just knowing what is the challenge here, and just leading from there. Just really putting your ear to the ground and listening to people. I think like that is the most important thing, listening to people, listening to what their challenges are. But then, I'm always going back to that. We listen to the challenges, but also let's take some accountability and say, it's not just happening over there. It's happening all around us. We are part of that ecosystem. We're part of the community. All of us are part of it. So I think it's not just like somebody take the leadership. All of us can become leaders. And in any kind of level, in a smaller community level, in a bigger level. I mean, I'm not saying you need to run for Congress or anything like that, but you can, a leader can talk to another leader, and it's like, right. We can all be leaders. Let's not wait for a rising star to come up and save us. There's no hero here. We all need to come out of this one together.
Yeah, we're the heroes of the story, and we're going to be we have to be the heroes of the story. There's certainly no, and it's so important what you just said, because, and we've been doing this a long time, but consistently when we've knocked on doors for federal elections, whether it's president or Senate or Congress, most times, unless someone has a strong opinion about the top of the ticket, most times when you ask a Latino working person, what are they concerned about? It's rarely federal issues. It's usually really local issues. The guy selling drugs down the block, the school.
Which the president has no power over.
Right. Oh my God. It's really trickled down. The school, my local school sucks. They don't have a lot of support for the Spanish speaking kids. My job doesn't pay, I don't have union at my job, so I don't have paid sick leave. So I don't have an opportunity to take care of my mom, and I'm really struggling because I got to stay home, or I got to, I'm not fully employed because of some of these issues. So we have to listen to that and start where people are at from an organizing perspective. So we have to really drill down, and the right has done a good job of that, getting involved in school boards and that whole parent control issue, but and really start where people are at. And the more people see that you're responding to their needs, the more they're going to be responsive to you about the other political things that we need them to do. So there's a lot of lessons here. It's painful because it almost feels like on some level we might be at the point of no return, or at least for quite some time. But we have to keep fighting, and we have to keep. You said the most important thing: we have to keep listening, and then we have to take leadership and take action after we listen to what people need.
Fully agree. All right. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. This was very insightful. Thank you for. We all can agree to disagree in a lot of things. And I love these kinds of conversations. I love listening to, experts talk about what's going on out there, because I have my own opinions, but I want to hear everybody else's. So thank you, Rafael, so much. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And I love that you got that fire still in you. It's that's what we need.
Can't quit. Yeah, we can't quit. We didn't come from quitters, and people have a lot of our folk. Let's be honest about it. Our ancestors dealt with a whole lot. A couple generations ago, I would have been cutting sugarcane somewhere for pennies. So our ancestors dealt with a lot worse, and we have to persevere because, look, I'm older than you, Clemente. I'm in the. I just turned 50 the other day, so. I have a few more seasons to go, but my kids and our younger people, we don't want them to live in an autocracy that doesn't respect their humanity. Yeah. We have to do better we have to fight for them. Yeah. And I intend to do that. And there's a lot of people who want to do that. And we've built a lot of goodwill this cycle amongst our whole leadership community. And we're going to continue to work together, Clement.
Yeah. You're not that much older than me, baby.
I just feel it, I guess. I'd say, 50 to do 35. I don't know. I'm feeling cool. I don't know. I get, people, it's funny because I get you're not great looking, but for 50, look like, it works out. It's the implication. Nobody ever says that, but I can see it inside. I get it.
It's the tone, how they say it.
I'll take it.
It's how they say it. It's like, you did pretty well.
Hey, I'll take it. What the hell?
Alrighty. Rafael, where can we find you, or where can we find your organization?
Yeah, in terms of on a personal level, follow me on Instagram, Collazo_speaks. My podcast, Bomba Live PR on Instagram, and pretty much everywhere it's Bomba Live PR. We'll have new episodes starting in the new year, but there's tons of content on there. You can catch up with me. We had over 20 episodes last year, so plenty to look at and check out. I have a wonderful group of collaborators that work with me around the country, but especially in my home base in Philadelphia, that I think you'll enjoy learning about. And then UnidosUS.org, and we are Unidos on social media, about the great organizing work we're doing around the country to support the Latino community from coast to coast. We have 300 local affiliate organizations, including several in Massachusetts, are part of our network. So there's a lot of work we can continue to do together.
I love it. And I really hope that by now you guys know where to reach me, but just in case that you don't remember, my email is clem@chancletageneration.com. We're also on the Insta @ChancletaGeneration, and we are no longer on X because bye Ellen. And then you can find us on the TikToks. Chancleta Generation.
Are you going to do Blue Sky, Clemency? That's what everybody's doing, Blue Sky. I haven't done it yet. Are you going to do Blue Sky?
Maybe.
We'll see.
Probably see.
Eventually, right? Yeah.
Eventually, probably.
Either way, we'll be in touch. Either way, don't matter.
Alrighty. Well, I hope this was insightful. Let us know what you think. You probably have a lot of thoughts, so I want to hear all of them. If you like the podcast, please share with your friends. And I know that, I mean, from the amount of people that have called me to ask me, what's happened? Just send them the link. And then you can just save yourself some time. Alrighty.
There you go.
Thanks, everyone. I will see you for the next episode. Thank you, Ray.